Hey YouTube. So I admit yesterday's video was pretty bad because I had a reflection on the screen and I couldn't see where I was aiming. Anyway, I'll try and do better with this one. As you can see, what I did was I took some sandpaper and sanded off the POR 15, and then I put some body putty on here because I want to level this up a little bit. The mounting of the hinge has actually caused the metal to be forced sort of down and dented on where the hinges are, and I want to fix that. I want to flatten that out a little bit, so that's why I put some body putty on here. You know that my panel goes somewhere from about here up to somewhere in here. You can see that there's fresh metal there. What I did was I took a tool I have, which I got from Harbor Freight. Let's see where I have that. I just stacked stuff up last night. Here we go. This is supposed to be a flanging tool that mounts on the top of a pneumatic hammer. Well, the hammer doesn't work because I bought it at Harbor Freight. So what I did was I actually ground down the jaw a little bit here more. I put a bolt through this, and if you put this over the metal, tighten up on the bolt, you get a really nice flange in there. So what I did was I used that tool, okay, and I think that was pretty ingenious to be able to use that bolt rather than throw the whole thing away. But anyway, I used that tool to put a flange along this piece. Now what that does is that's the piece that was the original door, okay? What that does is it strengthens the door and it gives the new piece of metal a place to lay on, okay, that I can weld, and it's fairly close to the same plane as the existing door. So I flanged the piece from one end to the other with the flanging tool, okay? And then I laid it on, lined it up on the edge here as best I could, both edges, and then I started tacking it in place. I had drilled a couple of holes in it so that I could, you know, drill through the new piece to the old piece. I had ground that off where the flange was, so that worked out good. And then I stitch welded all the way across. And it takes time because, you know, you're actually putting a tack here, you're putting a tack all the way over there, then you're putting a couple in here, and then you're going in between them. So it takes a while to do it. And the same thing with the stitch welding. You'll stitch at this end, that end, couple in the middle, and move around because you don't want the door to move and you don't want it to buckle. Now, a flat piece of metal like this door is a lot harder to work on than something that has some curves in it. I know that might not seem right to you if you're not good with metal work, but actually it's true. The flat piece will warp quicker than the other piece will, than a bent piece. So let me just set the camera down here for a second to flip the door over and show you what I did then on the bottom here. So you can see where I turned the metal under, okay, and all I did, because they're not being fancy with this Jeep and neither am I, all I did was I bent the metal under, like you can see how it's bent here. I bent the metal under and I put some seam sealer across there just to keep any water from getting in. Now it has to be, the little body putty in here has to be sanded down a little bit, but that's on the inside of the truck door and you're not going to see anything in there. I also spot welded that. You can see there was one there, one here, and a couple other places. I spot welded that. So that's pretty much it. The most important thing, let me turn this over again for you quick. The most important things on the welding is on the very edge here. Now you're looking at body putty there. Well, you can see the metal. There's metal coming through here. You can't really see where the seam started and the seam ends on this. And what you want to do is make sure that that's in good alignment there, or that you at least have enough metal that you can grind some of it down to be able to continue the shape of the door. Now if you look at that really close, you'll see right here there's a little bit of an indentation where the new piece comes out. So I'll just take a flap disc, which is one of these, because it actually works better than a grinder. I'll take this flap disc, put it on my grinder, and grind this off here nice and flat without breaking through the metal. I don't want to break through the metal. Now that's also after I welded that, I took the same flap disc and ground the weld down so it was fairly flat. Okay. Checking the weld with a straight edge this direction, the panels, and this direction, just laying the straight edge on there to make sure that the panel is staying flat. Once I did that, like I say, I ground it down with a flap disc. Then I put a coat of fiberglass body putty, fiberglass now, from here right along the seam. Now the way that flanging tool works, if you look at this, okay, I put it in this direction. In other words, the metal came in here. You can see that the bottom there, what's closest to the new welded piece, is where it's pushed downward. Right here, it gets pushed down. Alright, and what that does is it allows the water to run down the interior face of the door if any gets in there, and it'll pass by my seam so the seam don't rust. This is important, okay, that you realize that. Also, I took off this piece here. Man, this thing's in bad shape. That's the only end up there that's worth anything. I'm going to stop at Napa today and see if they have anything like this that I can pick up. So anyway, I put the fiberglass on here, knocked that down a little bit with a grinder, and then I put body putty on here. That's a first coat of body putty on there. And I just threw it on rough because I'll sand that down and then find out where my holes and stuff are. And when you're doing this, inside here there's a plate that holds the bolts for the hinges. You want to make sure you don't get any body putty in there, or if you do, take it out right away, because that plate needs to move a little bit back and forth. That's what will give the door adjustment when they hang it back on the Jeep. Okay? So I have a little bit more welding to do right in here, and also I think over here. So I'm going to get that taken care of. And once I sand this door down, I'll primer it, and that's as far as I'm going to go, is just primering. But I do want to try and buy this piece to put in here so the door doesn't rust anymore. So that's where I'm at so far with this one, guys. The other door is not near as bad. It's got a little hole or so in it. I don't know if I have to replace metal or just put fiberglass on it. I'll check it and see, and then I'll let you know. And if I do anything different,